Oh, there's also this fourth one. I think this is third. Ooh, the wheel concept.
Hello, hello. Waiting for some folks to come in here on the YouTube. Status Coup. Live in Queens, in New York City. Astoria Boulevard, to be specific. For an important story that I don't think you'll see covered in many other places. So I'm just going to give it a few minutes, let some more people tune in. And I'll tell you what's going on here, what's going on behind us now. John behind the camera, me and my foggy glasses. Let me tell you, whoever creates the best mask that doesn't fog glasses would be A-okay with me. Because as soon as I put this mask on, Status Coup mask, as soon as I put this mask on, it's like I'm in a mist storm. All right. Let's see. Waiting for some folks to come on in. All right, 30 people watching. Press that like button. Jen says we could get you some anti-fog masks. Okay, we'll see. Press the share button, press the like button. I'm going to wait till the text message gets out so we can get more people here on YouTube. Anti-fog glasses, sad, end evictions. So I think once we start the interviews and you learn what's been going on here for 30 days, I think you're going to be outraged. And part of why these things go on, what I'm talking about is this public housing apartment building where I'm at, public housing obviously for people on the lower income scale. There's a lot of public housing in New York City. Has been without gas for 30 days. Obviously you need gas to cook meals. What's that? Right. It's been without gas for nearly 4 weeks. And they can't cook hot meals. And the New York City Housing Authority has basically been dragging their feet, saying we're looking for a vendor. We're looking for a vendor to fix your gas. Well, let me tell you something. I've lived in New York City for a while, in Manhattan, and in the areas that I lived, if there was a gas outage, it would not be lasting for nearly 4 weeks, particularly during a pandemic. So what you see behind me is food delivery, where local activists, local politicians are delivering food for these 48 tenants here at the Astoria houses is the building complex we're in. So we're going to be talking to some folks, find out how they've been dealing during this gas outage. Like I said, it's not just that they're without gas. There's also the fact that this is during a pandemic where they're already having to, you know, everybody, whether in New York City or all over the country, are having to change their habits, stay inside more. So if you're staying inside more and you can't cook hot meals, each tenant has only been provided one electric hot plate, an electric hot plate, where one tenant that was quoted in another story said, all you could cook on an electric hot plate is coffee or water, basically. So let me wait for a couple more people. There is talks of a potential rent strike. It's not going on yet, but there are, some tenants here that are considering trying to organize a rent strike because you're paying rent when you can't really cook. Some folks have had to dip into very little savings that they can't afford to spend to go out and buy meals because they can't cook. And of course, I mean, let's just be honest. This is the United Corporations of America. If this was going on 20 minutes away in Manhattan, I mean, it would be fixed I don't know, couple days, but we're going on 30 days without gas as we head into Thanksgiving, then Christmas, Hanukkah, all that. As the weather's getting colder, and these folks, as you could tell, a certain complexion that's different than me, they're basically having to rely on generous food delivery. So I'm just going to give it one more minute. Keep this, please press the like button. It's right under the video. The more people that press the thumbs up button, the more people that will see this live stream. Also share the live stream. The more people that share, it gets it around. Also, if you could be so kind, leave us a super chat as the broadcast goes on. We definitely want to, get some revenue going today. It's important to cover these stories. We've got to pay John behind the camera. I need to eat. Jen needs to eat. Colin needs to eat. So keep us in mind if you can. So, love the accent, somebody said. All right, we got 100 people watching. Press that like button. All right, let's see. So tenants are kind of starting to come down. There's also a notice that came out today that I guess an electrician is coming by each house, or an inspector is coming by to look at each unit's gas. But again, this is going on for 4 weeks without gas. Think about it. Gas is for heat. Gas is for cooking. I mean, if it were up, obviously, I'm in favor of wind, solar, immediately shifting away from fossil fuels. But for now, people rely on gas to be warm as the weather gets colder, to cook their meals, all those things. Hey, Evie, when you get a chance, I'd love to speak with you. Great. Evie, sorry. So you're the wonderful woman that I found out about this from. You're running for New York City Council?
I am.
Okay. So talk to me. How'd you first get involved here? And I don't know, call me old-fashioned or just common sense. It seems to me if this was happening on the Upper East Side, we wouldn't be at 30 days without gas. And the situation would be, being resolved much sooner.
Yeah, I mean, so I first heard about it. I've been working here at Astoria Houses pretty much since June, every Tuesday through an organization that I co-founded with some neighbors called Frontline Foods Queens. We've been raising money to pay restaurants to make meals. First it was for frontline healthcare workers during the height of the pandemic, and then we shifted to NYCHA food pantries and nursing homes. And so we've been coming to Astoria Houses every Tuesday with prepared restaurant meals. Then when this happened, we heard that there was an even greater need for prepared meals. So basically, I just kind of put it out there on my Facebook page among my friends saying, there's no gas at Astoria Houses. People can't cook. They have just a hot plate to work with. Many people have families. There's no places to go nearby. It's a bit of a walk, and there's also a lot of seniors who live in this building as well. So the fact that they couldn't really access fresh, healthy, home-cooked meals was really a problem. So put it out on Facebook, ask neighbors, do you want to cook food? We're going to do some guerrilla catering, which is like what we're doing here. I had done this after Hurricane Sandy in the Rockaways, and so a lot of those people who were involved in that effort have been making food, but then also just other people in the community. The word spread through social media. And so people have just been cooking for our neighbors here at Astoria Houses so that they can have home-cooked meals for the week. So people come down, they bring their Tupperware, their trays, we fill them up, and so they have food to eat for the week. And I do agree with you in that, if this were happening in another part of New York City, the response would be faster, and it would be different than kind of what we've gotten here. But this is really just a result of years of neglect and disrepair, and the lack of our government to really take care and maintain this property in the way that it should be. So this is kind of just, one other thing among many other repairs that have not been corrected here at NYCHA, at Astoria Houses and across NYCHA throughout New York City as well.
And also, it's a compounding factor because across the country during the pandemic, it's disproportionately affected Black and brown people. So they're already at home more because of the pandemic. Obviously, a lot of people have lost their jobs. We've been without, if you're unemployed, federal help. It's been 3 months ago that expanded unemployment has passed. So you have the disproportionate effect on possibly many of the people living here, on top of now having no ability to make, hot meals, Obviously, gas helps with heating and those kind of things. So could you kind of talk about, has this kind of added on top of the stress and challenges that they have faced during the pandemic?
For sure, and I think, some residents might be willing to talk with you and they can tell you in their own voice, but certainly they've communicated to me how this has been a real burden, particularly if they have children, if they're seniors. This NYCHA community was, in terms of this district, was really hard hit by COVID. This is when you look at kind of the COVID cases, you can kind of focus right here in Astoria houses for District 22. So many of them are essential workers. So yes, some people did lose their jobs or, but got sick, but also other people were still going to work because they were essential workers as well, and they had no choice. So because of that, many, the rate of infection was higher as well. So it's definitely, obviously, a burden. It is an injustice. It is something that needs to be corrected as soon as possible. And like I said, this is the result of years of disinvestment in public housing, and it's wrong. It's a human rights abuse. So we're hoping that, obviously we can provide some meals to try and keep people healthy and fed, but also pressure on our elected officials, pressure on NYCHA to take care of this situation.
NYCHA is the electrical?
New York City Housing Authority, yeah.
And I also want to ask, in terms of, the country, billionaires have made, I think, almost $700 billion more. They've expanded their wealth during the pandemic. We have the first bailout went to major corporations. Meanwhile, it's not just this complex. There's food lines across the country. Can you kind of talk about the contrast between kind of the rich getting richer, but this complex is basically begging the housing authority to expedite this. They only provided one electric hot plate per unit. It just seems like, an insult to injury, to say the least.
Of course. It's really nothing new, unfortunately, but you're really seeing it at a whole other level because of COVID, because of the growing, income inequality gap, and really seeing how so many people have become food insecure. So many people are, at risk for losing their housing, right? We have a moratorium, but, when that ends, what's going to happen to folks? So there's just so many things that keeps getting piled on, and yet you have, billionaires who are getting richer off of the pandemic and are not paying their fair share of taxes, and our government, for some reason, doesn't want to tax them. So I think, it's upsetting to me. I do have a roof over my head. I still have my job. But to see in this country people lining up for food, whether it's prepared food, whether it's food boxes, waiting sometimes from 6 a.m. so that they can have they can be in the queue to make sure that they get a box. How can that happen? It is unconscionable. It's wrong, and we need to change things. We can't continue this way. And I feel that, as we kind of come out of this pandemic, that we really need to look at the structural racism, the structural inequality, and work to address it.
Last question, you're running for city council. We've had on the national level the defund the police movement. Mayor de Blasio, to me, it kind of seemed like an accounting gimmick. We're going to cut it by $1 billion, but he really just moved the money around. Whether it's the police or other departments that are bloated, if there's less money going into police, $6 billion to police, there could be more money to agencies to expedite things like this and give more resources to communities like this in the first place.
For sure. Reducing or defunding the police budget is definitely a step in making sure that resources can be allocated towards communities that need it. That's not going to be able to solve everything, right? We're going to have other issues over the next couple years. So I think, our government, our city government, obviously our state and our federal as well, are really going to need to look at how to reallocate resources so that communities who have been disenfranchised, who have been disinvested in, who, are not provided the same opportunities that other people have, that they get the resources that they need so that they can live their lives in dignity. So that will have to happen. Multiple steps, not just defunding. That's not going to be enough, right? We need to do more than that as well, both in terms of our policy as well as our budgeting.
You know, we have viewers from around the country, but if they're watching in New York or nearby, how can they help?
Well, I mean, so right now, I mean, how can they help? I think it's you know, to write to NYCHA, to, you know, we're not taking money, right? Like right now it's food. I don't want to set up like another nonprofit. They could actually donate to Frontline Foods Queens, because we will be providing Thanksgiving dinner for everyone here in this building if they want it. Full Thanksgiving dinners, so that at least on Thanksgiving, we're calling it Queensgiving, because, you know, sometimes there's some issues with Thanksgiving. We're calling it Queensgiving, and to make sure that everybody here can have a really wonderful meal on that day with their family and not have to worry about how am I going to cook it, where am I going to go. So we're going to be providing that. So if people want to donate to Frontline Foods Queens, they could. They can just Google it. It'll pop right up. But, you know, I think the main thing is really keeping up the political pressure. NYCHA, the mayor, to fix NYCHA, to fix these issues, not just the gas that we're experiencing in this building, but the repairs across the city that have really led to substandard conditions for people. No one should be living in some of these conditions. Mold, you know, disrepairs, you know, leaks, all those kinds of things that compromise the health and well-being of really great people who live in these communities.
Not to mention high lead.
Lead. I mean, the lead issue is a whole other thing as well, for sure. Yeah.
Can people find out more about you and your campaign?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really here to talk about my campaign, but it's electevy.com if they would like to. Sure, no problem.
Thank you, Evie.
Yep.
Appreciate it. So that's one organizer who's been helping out with this. As you can see, they're distributing food. Tenants are going to be coming in and coming out throughout the day here. Thank you for the super chat. Fix the app. Hey, Jordan, if Biden wins this election, you definitely need to do some investigative journalism. Trump signs everywhere, only see a handful of Biden signs. Okay, I don't know what you're referring to. I do a lot of investigative journalism, but thanks for the super chat. Appreciate it. Ma'am, would you want to chat with us? You could sit.
Oh, talking about
the gas shortage, those kind of things.
Right, and that hot plate, we can't cook on a hot plate like that. One, I know. And it's terrible, and then we got to pay rent and all of that. That's not fair to us. And most of the tenants, like she said, don't have it like that. You got to have money. I'm on SSI, my grandson. I'm on Social Security, my grandson on SSI. We ain't got it like that. And some of these people, they could do a little better.
And people are having to dip into their savings to go out and buy meals.
Right. And then the people from the welfare came out here. Housing won't give us no letter from Nitro. So they're not going to accept most of the cases. And I don't think that's good.
Especially while you're already dealing with this pandemic, and people are at home more during the pandemic. So how are you supposed to live if you can't cook and those kind of things?
Right. And that's the bottom line. And I can't get out and go all over. My home attendant's only here 4 hours.
There's a lot of senior citizens here in a similar position to you.
Right.
Do you think if this was happening, you know, Upper East Side of Manhattan, this would be going on for 30 days?
I don't think so. I don't think so. The other night, my sink fell down. If it wasn't for the lady over there helped me, I don't know when they would have fixed my sink.
Sink fell down, you said?
Sink, yeah, they said they can't come to the next day. But so happened my neighbor came and got it all together.
And how have you been eating since they only gave an electric hot plate?
We gotta make it do. The food don't come out right. No. It don't.
Because I read one tenant said really the only thing you could cook on it is coffee, boil water.
That was me.
Oh, that was you.
Yes. And that's all you could do. You gotta get up early in the morning to cook.
So this has been, I assume, on top of the stress you're already living under, this has added a lot of stress for you and your neighbors.
Right.
And has New York City, the housing authority, been responsive, giving you guys communication on when the gas will be restored?
Well, they came this morning. I said it'll be a long while. A long while. But they saying that the meeting will be before Thanksgiving. No, it won't. Because I talked to the man, he said it'll be a while.
Why so long? Why can't they switch out the gas for electric?
I don't know. They said it'll be a long time before this gas go on. Because I'm the type of person I ask questions.
What's your name?
Rebecca Ford.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So that's one tenant. And like you said, how you doing?
One of the liaisons for the building.
Oh, sure. You want to chat with us?
So before you start filming me, I want to know what you want to ask me. That's
Well, we're live now, so.
You live?
Yeah, we're talking to tenants, asking them what they've been dealing with, why this hasn't been fixed. I understand the housing authority hasn't been the most
Not
helpful.
the most forthcoming.
Right. So
No.
I like your shirt, boss lady. So talk to me. First of all, what's the explanation why it's taking so long? Usually gas shortages don't last 30 days, particularly in, Manhattan or
My
different
guess
parts.
is as good as your guess. I really don't know what the process is. We're just standing in the back of it to find out what's really going on. So that's why we're doing these little gatherings here for the community of the Astoria residents, to let everybody come together and let them know we're all in this together. We're not separated. So this problem is not going to go away, and it needs to be addressed. But I couldn't really give you no updates on what's going to happen. I know they're really doing work now in the apartments as of this week. They've been coming out to do a scope and check the pipes. But as of right now, it's still on a standstill. So we don't really know what NYC's plan is.
And can you kind of talk about, this woman was talking about, really you could only on these electric hot plates, the food doesn't come out right. You could really only make coffee and, boil tea or something like that.
Yeah.
What are the residents experiencing?
The residents are experiencing poor living conditions. Our human right is being violated. You can't survive in your home without having gas. So we're just trying to work together to try to make sure people have hot meals. We have people that have family of 5, family of 2. It's a real struggle. So what we're doing is struggling with love by giving back to the community, letting people know we're all in this together. There's no division here. We're all in this together. And it's not just our building now. It's been since September 22nd that we've been without gas. So that's almost 32 days. We can't get any answers. We can't get answers from the centralized call center. We can't really get answers from NYCHA. We're having these meetings, but nothing's being accomplished.
I thought Mayor de Blasio is a man of the people. Where's Mayor de Blasio?
I don't know where Mayor de Blasio is, but he really needs to step in on this because our lives are being affected. And we do matter. We do care. So, but
I asked you about your earrings, if you could show the camera. Beautiful Black Lives Matter earrings. And let's just be honest here. The complexion is black. If this, I used to live in Manhattan in a pretty nice area. I don't think this would be happening for 30 days. And they're saying it might be going on into the holidays. This is a racial issue, is it not?
I really can't speak on that because I'm observing what I see. And if it's black and white, it's black and white. I'm just saying, like on paper, black and white is black and white. If you see it and you're observing it, then that's what it really is. We just need the power people to step up. And we have Rydell Park here. We have 2 buildings being built down on 4th Street. We're having electrical interruptions all the time. And no one's really thinking about Astoria houses. I see it as Astoria mansions. This is where I live. This is my community. But everything's being taken care of on the outside of the community. What about the central part of it, you know? So
What about the government? The first bailout during this pandemic, the coronavirus bailout, they called it the CARES Act. It seemed like they only cared about big corporations. They gave trillions of dollars to massive corporations. The people who are unemployed have been without federal unemployment since July. That
high rises.
right.
They're
So
just thinking about high rises, but what about the people that live in public housing? I call it a story of mansions. That's what I call it, because we do have shining lights out here. We're superstars, so superstars should be taken care of too. The working people, the poor, the old, the rich, the young. It's just like poetry. It affects us all. There shouldn't be any lines or levels or titles. We all need to come together, and this is an issue that's affecting us all. Not because someone lives in another apartment, it's not affecting them. I feel it affects us all. We all need to step up and have those powerful hands come together as one, because we are one at the end of the day, and families are going hungry. So we don't want that to happen, but we got to take it back to the forefront. The gas is the central issue. When is it going to get addressed? And we can't have these little small meetings, floor to floor, like they're doing floor to floor meetings now, NYC. We've had 2 meetings so far, September 24th, October 8th. Hopefully we'll get another one in the next 2 weeks, but they're doing floor to floor. That's not helping. They're saying be here 7 o'clock, but it's still not helping.
and I want to ask you, because obviously during the coronavirus, I mean, it's been disproportionately harmful to black people. So you already have one pandemic going on. People are home more. So how are people dealing on top of a pandemic? Now you can't make hot meals.
It's more stressful. It's more stressful, and the stress is going to come on more. But we're trying to alleviate that as much as possible and just show, like I said, we're showing that these are the hands that care. You see all the people gathering together as one. We have people of all cultures. It's not just black, African Americans. We have the Latino community here. We have Caucasian people here. It's all cultures. It's not just blacks. But yeah, we do want them to understand that blacks do matter as well. But it's just one big rainbow. That's how I see it. And we're just standing together. You know, we all bleed the same color. So I don't like all the division that's going on, but what can you do?
And I'm just curious, has anyone been able to get in contact with Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez about this?
She has been mentioned. She has been mentioned. I'm not sure if anyone has gotten in contact with her, but I've been doing my civil part by stepping out and calling congressmen. I've been in touch with the Carolyn Maloney's office. I've been in touch with Senator Michael Janaris's office. So they are coming out into the community to see what's going on firsthand. This is a firsthand experience. So people can say whatever they want to say, but you don't really know what it is about until you're in it, until you're in the situation. So as I said, we have a drive-in movie theater here almost every week and every weekend. They're partying, having a good time. But hey, what about over here? Let's help out the Astoria community. Let's really help out the Astoria community and come together as one. We're not trying to stop anybody from building or doing corporations or making high-rises, but we're being affected. Like I said, it's interruptions, electrical interruptions have affected remote learning. Children are home more. They're not really in the school systems, and they're probably doing blended education now. Home 3 days, go to school 2 days. They're being affected because when the lights go out, they can't get back on their Wi-Fi or their laptops. So that's a real problem. It's a real big issue. And I guess NYC just wants us to just sit back and take everything that they're putting towards us, but they really need to step in the forefront.
But I also think this shows, because a lot of people that are more comfortable say America's great, you know, we're the leader of the free world, but in many places they're treating people like it's a third world country. I mean, we're the richest country in the world, but New York City is the biggest city in the world, but like you said, it's a tale of two cities. Certain parts are getting the resources, while leaders like you are having to do the job of the government.
Yeah, and it's just sad to see, but I can't just sit around and do nothing. I'm trying to do my part. I don't want to be seen like in the light where I'm a big shot. I don't want that. I'm for the people. And I stand for the people. And that's people of all cultures. It's not just the black culture or the African American culture. It's for us all. As you can see, people are seeing the love. And that's number one. We want people to see the love, see that people care. And I even had one of my friends, she works with a daycare center, so she did like little hands. The kids trace hands, 3 and 4-year-olds. And we posted those and gave them out to the families just so they could see Astoria residents, we care. You know, so I'm just trying to get that publicized because I don't want them to see that, you know, we're not doing anything about the problem while we're waiting on NYCHA to decide what they're going to do. We're still going to do what we got to do because we got a mission to push forward.
How could my viewers help? We got people from all over the country and New York. What could they do to help?
Well, we do have some leaders here, community leaders here. They could reach out to Miss Evie, because I'm sure you've spoken to her. She's taking donations, and people are donating crock pots, rice cookers, because the holiday is coming. Thanksgiving is coming, and people are worried about how they're going to feed their families, if the stoves are going to be back on. And we're moving to the reality now that the stoves are not going to be back on, but housing's not giving us any answers. They're putting out notices now because we complain about that. But hey, they need to step up and just do what they have to do. Give us a time frame. Give us a scale of what's going to take place. Don't leave people in the dark. Don't misguide people. Make sure they're informed because they pay their rent just like anybody else does.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you because, like, why are they paying rent? I mean, I'm not telling people what to do, but like, shouldn't people say, hell no, you don't? We pay for the gas. If you're not going to provide it, we have to be inconvenienced. You said it's a human right that we're not paying the rent.
Yes, I totally agree with you on that. But as of right now, it's still on a standstill of what they're going to do because they're moving forward their agenda. They still want the rent to be taken. You know, they still want people to pay their rent, but they're not giving us any answers about the gas. Yes, of course they're putting out notices now, but what happened on September 22nd when this first happened? You know, where was the plumber? Who responded in 24 hours? As I know, a lot of residents didn't even know the gas was out. And I feel like that's like a slap in the face to me because you should have put a notice out saying, hey, your gas is out. You're providing the hot plates, but it's not enough. It's not enough. People, like I said, people have family of 5, family of 2, whatever the case is. It's going to take a long time for them to cook those meals, you know? And we're only allowed to have 1 hot plate. So what are we going to do for the rest of the year? But we're making it happen. That's the main thing. We're making it happen. We're not blaming anyone, but there's a problem here that needs to be addressed. Seriously.
What's your name?
Shantae.
Shantae?
Yes.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Absolutely.
Thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
And thank you for coming out.
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, I think this is outrageous. It truly is outrageous. I could tell you as a semi-privileged white dude, this would not be happening. I know they're trying to, you know, not say it's a race thing. It's a race thing. It's a poverty thing. That's what it is. I mean, this is a public housing building. Obviously, that is low-income people on government assistance, and they're basically leaving them out here while gentrification is running amok in New York City. Obviously, cities like New York City are hurting during the coronavirus. If you walk around Manhattan, other parts of the city, I mean, businesses are out. They've had to make, a lot of the restaurants have really created like an outdoor oasis, a lot of outdoor dining, but a lot of, you know, smaller businesses are going out of business. So there's pain all around, but the government, meaning the local government, the city, it's their job to respond. I mean, think about it. I mean, I'm not like a plumber or a general contractor, but like, you know, gas, it shouldn't take that long. And if for whatever reason it's going to take that long for gas, then the city should be providing food every single day, not donations. And by the way, when they say NYCHA, they're talking about the New York Housing Authority, if you don't know. So let me see what comments are coming in before we speak with more people. Keep pressing that like button. Keep pressing the share button. We got 450 people watching, so please, please keep sharing, keep sharing. Super chats are welcome. If you're not yet a member to Status Coup, this is what your membership gets you. We're covering stories nobody else is covering. We go where, while the rest of the media is out having brunch, we're out in the trenches covering the forgotten people, black, brown, poor, white, doesn't matter. These kind of stories are where we're going to be. Statuscoup.com/join for as low as $5 a month. That's how we grow. That's how we afford to do this. Also, if you're new here, subscribe to this channel. Subscribe and click the bell, all that good stuff. Let me see. Hold on. And I'll once we post, once I'm back, I'll put resources under the video how you could help, all those things. So yeah, they're delivering food, and also, you know, it's not just the gas. You heard from this woman, her sink fell in. You know, other things go wrong in public housing, and it takes a long time to get any responses. So this is what's going on. It's not just here, but all over the country. You look at cities like Baltimore, Maryland. You look at Newark, New Jersey. You look at parts of Chicago. I mean, it's everywhere. It might be gas here, but it is a lot of places that this stuff is happening. So we'll see if we could talk to some other folks here. Keep sharing this live stream. So obviously they got volunteers coming out to help provide the food, which is good. The local city council candidate is here distributing food. Honestly, I haven't heard anything from New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio about this. I'm going to try to get this on Congresswoman AOC's radar. I mean, it should be. I think she represents the Bronx and parts of Queens. So I don't know if this area is her specific district, but I'm sure she would be outraged about this. And again, what is it, October 24th? So you're already basically in November. The weather's getting a little bit colder. Thanksgiving holiday coming up. There's no answers. They don't even have a timeline when they're going to put back the gas on. And the rent is due on November 1st. I mean, there are tenants that have been quoted in other places that are basically having to dip into savings that they really don't even have. I mean, these are not people with huge amounts of savings to go out and get meals. They're not providing meals every day. So if you think about, just think about Flint, for example, how that was a national disgrace. It still is. I'm still working on that story. But the stations of water got national attention. The lines of people lined up to get water. This isn't so different. I mean, water you need, but you also need food, healthy food too. So to me, this isn't so different, but it's not going to get the same national attention, that's for sure. So let me see if I can talk to some other folks. Can I chat with you? So yeah, I've just been talking to people, finding out what's going on here, residents' experience, issues with the rent's coming due, but they still haven't provided this. What do you think about the fact that they're still asking for the rent, yet they're not providing the services?
Well, my name is Stan Morris. I'm from the Justice for All Coalition. We're having a rally, actually, on Thursday at 3 o'clock for residents who are looking to hold back their rent. And I agree with you 100%. We don't tell residents to strike, but we say you should and you could. That's your personal decision. A lot of residents are afraid. They're afraid about being retaliated against, but you are within your legal right, if you're not getting services, to not pay the rent. And if you don't have gas, then it's a breach of contract right off the top. You can't even cook. So how can they demand rent when they give deplorable services like that? Even today, we had to clean up ourselves. You see NYC folks all around not doing the job. Then they came up after we cleaned up and picked up the bags.
Right, 'cause when we got here, there was rows of garbage and stuff that you had to clean up.
So then they come around and they pick it up. So that's absurd. That's ridiculous. So why are people paying rent when they're being treated like that? And I think people have a misconception. They think everybody in NYC pays a small amount of rent. There are people here that may pay $1,000, $1,500. I've heard even up to $2,000. And they still can't get basic services. So we tell folks that a decent place to live is a human right. And if you're not getting that, then you are within your legal right not to pay. Absolutely, absolutely.
And it's not just that they're not turning the gas on. From what I'm seeing, there's very little communication. There's no timeline really that they've given. There's no real explanation like what's taking so long.
Exactly. You know, NYCHA is, the way they run it is the most dysfunctional system ever. Like the manager offices that are here are almost useless, you know, because you go there and you complain, they can't do anything. They got to send a notice to 250 Broadway or to whoever. It's all centralized. And then they got to make 3-4 other calls or 4 or 5 other vendors and this and that. And it takes all this long time to do something that really should be simple. You should be able to go to your manager's office, talk to your manager's office, and have them respond to your issue. So the manager offices are really like useless. And that's why the residents don't get a time frame. There's so many pieces of that got to be put together to make something very simple done. And it goes on and on. And I think it's disrespectful and shameful that this been out for this long and there's no time frame and the holidays are coming up and you want people to live like this. It's disgusting.
Also, nationally, right? Obviously, this president, a lot of people think there's racism going on, the growing white supremacy threat, but the everyday community racism. I mean, I used to live in Manhattan. This wouldn't be going on for 30 days in nice parts of Manhattan. If it was, I mean, privileged white people would be outraged. The media would be there.
That's right.
So this is a race issue as well.
Absolutely. It's definitely institutional racism. The way HUD from the federal level is disinvesting in NYCHA. It shows you where their focus is. You know, we in a pandemic, we can come up with all this money, which I'm glad. If you can have $1 trillion package to save individuals, then there's money to fix NYCHA. If we could find all of this money to do all these other things when we have to, why isn't there money to fix this? And not just here in New York, but around the country. So the federal government is basically saying we're done with public housing. We're not going to do it anymore. There's a Fair Cloth Act which they passed that says, you know what, we're basically out of it. And, you know, what happens now? You know, so if you want to back out of it because you did a poor job, you know, now you want to bring private investors in, you know, who are coming in here not to do anything right for the residents. They come in here to make $1. This is a profit zone for them. This is profit, and they're profiting on our pain, you know, and that is pure racism, you know, from the bottom up. Because you're right, if it was a different class, or different people, then this would not be happening at all, you know. And then when they change it, trust and know, when it becomes privatized, it's not gonna look nothing like this then. Then all of a sudden it's gonna be clean. Then all of a sudden service is gonna be gotten. So why couldn't you do that when the people were here first? Why did you have to sell it out before you can give people a decent place to live?
I mean, it's happening everywhere. Gentrification. I mean, these real estate developers are basically flooding money to the politicians.
Absolutely.
And the politicians let them basically push out poor people.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's happened in New York City, Chicago, D.C., everywhere.
Absolutely.
And there's not a lot of talk about it. It's essentially I call it the economic Hunger Games, because it's like where you live, you might be in a little cocoon. Like one woman was mentioning, yeah, there's nice stuff, you know, a couple blocks away.
Absolutely.
But here they're leaving us to kind of fend for ourselves.
And that's why I'm running for Queensborough president against Donovan Richards, because he's being used as the point person for private developers. You know, and you're 100% correct. You know, Long Island City itself is the most overdeveloped community in the country at this particular point in time.
So my audience knows that's where they wanted to put the Amazon.
Exactly. So I'm with the Justice for All Coalition as an organizer, but I'm also running for office. And we fought hard against Amazon, you know, because, again, why are we giving subsidies to the richest man in the world to build his company when he's making money hand over fist? Even now, during the pandemic, he's become even richer, you know, as the other billionaires have become as well. So why are we giving money to an individual like that when a few blocks away you have Queensbridge, you know, which is getting no money, no attention? And then, as they always do, they promise the jobs. And we told Jeff Bezos and Amazon when we had all our meetings, if you want to come and explain to the community what you're going to do, you're welcome to come. You know, so why don't you come? You took your ball and went home, but you really couldn't really explain to the community what you really was going to do. Those jobs they promised were not for those residents. People were actually buying condominiums. As soon as Amazon announced, there was a rush on real estate from people out of town because they knew that they're going to be the ones getting those jobs, and so they can afford these high-rise condominiums that they wanted to build. And so that was never for the residents, never for the community, you know, and that's why I'm running, you know, because it's the same old thing over and over and over again, where they come, they all these trinkets of jobs, you know, which are really not for us, and even if a few people do get a job, that's not worth the neighborhood becoming gentrified and turned over, and to the point where you can't even live there now. I grew up in Brooklyn. I can't afford to live in Bed-Stuy no more. Bed-Stuy used to be a all-black neighborhood. Now it's not. It's pretty much all white, and the rents are through the roof. And that's when they built the Barclays Center, the Metro Tech, and all the development that happened, while the projects all around stayed the same. And now you can't even recognize Brooklyn no more. You go downtown Brooklyn, you think you're in Manhattan, you know. And that's really what they want to do in all these developments, especially here. You're right by the water, which a lot of nicer developments are by water and prime real estate. You know, so it's all connected, where the developers are making their money over there in terms of building their high-rises, and now they want to make money over here, you know, and take over these developments. And then we get lost and caught in the middle.
Where's Mayor de Blasio? I thought he's a man of the people. I mean, shouldn't this be on his radar? You're talking possibly into Thanksgiving, possibly even later, that they're not going to have gas. This woman was saying we can't really make anything on these electric hot plates other than coffee. I mean, this is a human right. It's a safety issue. There's children home that aren't in school. Where's the mayor?
De Blasio, man, is a progressive. You know, that's how he kind of positions himself. But, you know, when you really look at what he's doing, he's very connected to the real estate board in New York. He takes a lot of money from them, you know. So when you take money from those entities, then you have to do their bidding, you know. So the progressive that he ran as we come to know and see, is not who he really is. De Blasio is for real estate development. He's for that interest, and it's a shame. He's done a horrible job. And I say the same thing for Cuomo, you know, in terms of NYC. You know, they both have done a horrible job. We came here today, and you saw the conditions, you know, so how are they saying that they're cleaning 3 times a week? You know, when I could walk in this building right now and know that it hasn't been cleaned since I was here last week, you know, so, you know, it's a lot. De Blasio's done a terrible job, and so has Cuomo. And as the pandemic is rearing up and gearing up again, you know, what are they going to do? Are they going to continue doing what they've done? Are they going to let these buildings continue to look like this? You know, people died in NYC, you know, during the pandemic. And it's a direct result of lack of cleaning, lack of care, lack of concern. You know, and this would not be happening if this were not black and brown people.
Last question. Other than the gas problem, there's other issues. You got lead all over the community. You know, she said her sink caved in. Right. I mean, there's decrepit conditions and lack of repairs going on in places like this every day. And that doesn't get a lot of attention. Like you said, less resources for the New York Housing Authority. And basically, it's like you might get somebody for the CIA on the phone quicker than New York Housing Authority.
Absolutely. You know, and the sad part of it is that this is on purpose. You know, they let these buildings fall apart to a certain extent, and then they say it's going to cost $46 billion to fix it. We don't have $46 billion, you know, so what are we going to do now? So then the only answer they give us is we got to go to a private developer, because it's so bad and it's so terrible, and we just don't have the money that this is our only option. And their goal is to come in here, they'll fix it up, you know, but they're going to do very shaky work. It's going to look good, but they know that residents are starving. You know, they know that they want just a decent place to live. You know, so in the very beginning, it will look great. They've done it in Ocean Bay, over in Far Rockaway, and this is what Donovan Richards did, who I'm running against. And you know, people are complaining already. You know, in terms of the work not being all that great. And then they hired Wavecrest Management, you know, which is a slumlord. You know, so the city is going to slumlords to manage these developments. That's really no better than they are. You know, so it's really a game. It's a shame. You know, I deal with tenants every day. The disrespect that they get when they go down to the manager's office to complain is horrendous. The way the whole system goes is terrible. Like I said earlier, you should be able to go to your manager's office and say, I have a leak. They should be able to make an appointment to a plumber and give you a time to go. Instead, they say, where's your ticket? You put a ticket in, you know, they got to research the ticket. Then a lot of times those tickets are closed before anybody even comes out. So they go back down there again and say it's still not fixed. You know, put another ticket in. Then the ticket circulates here, there, you know, and by the time you literally get a person to come solve the issue, you're 6 months, 7 months, 8 months down the road, which is why we're telling people we're going to sue. We're taking Astoria houses to court for the lack of repairs. We're doing the same thing in Queensbridge, same thing in Ravenswood, and other developments around the city, because folks should have repairs done. You know, and people need to know that they can sue, and people need to know not to be intimidated, because NYCHA has intimidated residents who filed letters of complaint through our organization, Justice for All Coalition, and they know that, you know, if a resident values their house and they may not have nowhere else to go, then they're going to sit quietly and silently, you know, while they're living in these crazy conditions. So we're going to initiate lawsuits against each and every development, and we hope that it grows to become a citywide thing, you know, so the NYCHA residents know that you can fight back. You just can't sit back and accept this, because this is unacceptable.
You know, we were talking about a possible rent strike. We're seeing in other parts of the country tenants unions, like, you know, chaining themselves to courthouses to stop evictions. You know, I think a lot of people are intimidated by not just NYCHA, but all over the country, landlords, because they don't want to be thrown out. They understand capitalism. How, in your view, can tenants, whether the gas is out or elsewhere, better organize? Because bottom line, if you got enough people, you have the leverage.
Right. But I think that residents have to see that, and not just NYCHA residents, like you said, all over the city, because we're about to go into I can't even imagine, you know, what the city's going to look like when the moratorium is finally lifted and all the evictions can go through. You know, you're going to see a homeless situation in New York like you've never, ever seen. You know, going back to 1980 crack era, that's like we've returned back to that. You know, and we got to realize as people that we have the power. You know, we put these elected officials in, you know, they come when they want to get a vote, you know, but they're not here. Where are they now? You know, where's de Blasio today? You know, he should be out here. Where's Cuomo today? You know, they come around when it's time to get a vote, but they're not really concerned with the people. So the people had to be concerned with themselves. And we saw that doing Amazon. People thought, well, Amazon is too big. There's no way in the world people could push that out. You know, when people got together and organized in the way that they did, we saw what happened. All the politicians and Amazon had to fold under that pressure. So I think that was an example of what we could do. And we got to take that same energy and put it into the housing fight to say, you know what, we're not going to take it. If you got to, like you said, chain ourselves to the door, you're not going to throw 7,000 NYCHA residents out into the street. You know, so that is our power. And we got to reclaim it. We got to take it. It starts with voting, number one. But after you vote, then we got to continue to take to the streets and demand changes in policy, and then put people in office that really represent what we all want. And until we get that, then we're going to keep going through the same cycle over and over. It'll be 20 years from now, and we'll be standing in front of a building like this with nobody with no gas. And so that has to change.
Mention your group one more time, and you said you're running for office, right. So how can people find out more?
Okay, well, I'm from the Justice for All Coalition. I'm the lead organizer. That's an organization started by NYCHA residents in Long Island City who saw all these high-rises going up around them, and yet they lived in their developments and it was falling apart. So they formed this organization. I'm the lead organizer of it, but I'm also running for Queensborough president. You know, I don't have my website up yet, so I just got my link to receive donations. You know, but you'll be hearing more about my campaign.
Your name, too.
My name is Stan Morse, and the slogan of our campaign is "I'm fed up." You know, I'm fed up, so I decided to step up. And I think all people need to do that, is understand it. And these times, in the moment that we live in now, there's so much to be fed up about. You know, we don't even know if our democracy is going to survive, you know, in the way things are going. So we got to step up now. It's really on us. You know, our federal government has failed us. It seems like democracy itself is failing us to a certain extent. You know, so we got to really step up and be the power that we want to be at this point.
Thank you, Stan.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Yeah. So powerful words. And this is the third or fourth person I've spoken to, organizations stepping up, you know, community activists, people running for office. They're doing more than their own government. I mean, that's what's going on. Let me see that too. You said there's a rally?
Yep.
Thank you. So there's the New York City Housing Authority on strike, public funding for repairs and reparations now. So they're having a rally this coming Thursday, 3 o'clock, to talk about this, and I'm sure a lot more. We'll be there, yeah. So let's, all right, we got almost 600 people watching, so keep pressing that like button. Oh, we got trolls. there's trolls against gas for poor people. You guys are messed up if you're against gas for poor people. Let me tell you. So keep pressing that like button. Keep sharing this live stream. Subscribe to this channel if you can. Subscribe right under the video. Also, if you're not a member, sign up right now. statuscoup.com/join. You can support our reporting on stories like this. Do you see CNN out here? Come on. Do you see MSNBC out here? Only if you can prove Russia cut the gas. Then they'll be out here in a jiffy. So you have more tenants coming out. And this is probably going to be going for a couple hours. We've seen a mother with her kids living here. And that's one thing that, you know, this is different. It's not only that the gas is out, it's that the kids aren't at school. So imagine for a second, wherever you're living, if you have your kids at home, but the stove don't work, and you can't cook, and you're already poor and don't have money to run out and go to, you know, whatever, Chipotle or, I don't know, buy 3 meals a day out. The stress of that, you know, and kids, obviously, remote learning is kind of a transition and difficult for kids anyway. But on top of that, not having ways to make healthy food, it is a human rights issue. It's terrible. It's terrible. So we got a crock pot here. She was mentioning that crock pots could be delivered. And we'll put all the names of the people that I've been interviewing when we cut these videos and make shorter videos to put up. We'll put them in there. So hold on. Can I ask you a question, ma'am?
Oh, sure.
Is this your first time volunteering here?
Yes, I've sent food over, but this is the first time that I've stayed to help serve. Okay. And I helped grab the crock pots from other Astoria neighbors to bring over here.
And, I mean, it just seems, my audience is saying, like, how is it that they have no timeline here? It seems like there's no urgency to fix this problem. Talking about NYCHA.
Oh, NYCHA not fixing the problem? Oh, yeah, I've heard a lot about, like, oh, it's so hard to get a NYCHA-approved vendor, and these are all the other excuses, and da-da-da-da-da. But, you know, if these were privately owned apartments and you were answering to a landlord, it would be a totally different story, you know? They would eventually break down to a bunch of tenants screaming at them, because ultimately what, you know, private housing does is you withhold your rent until something gets fixed. And so, you know, it's a shame that, you know, people that live in these public housing can't do that. And, you know, as a New Yorker who is, you know, obviously part of the supporting the housing, you know, it's like we should all be upset. Like, yeah, I would withhold my rent. I would be on the phone every day screaming about where's my gas, you know, but
I think a lot of people, I was just talking to one person, are intimidated to do that.
Because you don't want to lose your position. I mean, like, yeah, I'm not scared to call my landlord because there's very few repercussions for somebody like me. But yeah, I could definitely see if I lived in a housing situation where I wasn't really sure, you know, what my rights were, I'd be a little bit more nervous and I wouldn't want to rock that boat, and I might accept, you know, that this is the situation for a while, you know. And also, you get tired, you know. You're working. You're raising kids, you're having them go to school. Like, do you need one more thing to do? Like, you know, tell your landlord to do their own job? Like, that's ridiculous to make people that have to work so hard for everything to do even one more effing thing. It's like...
And if your kids are home with you because of the coronavirus.
Your kids have been home with you for 7 months. You don't have time to do anything. You don't have time to chase down a city that has thousands and thousands of employees and could definitely probably fix this like in a short amount of time. It's, you know, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So I'm glad I can do this one very small thing, but I wish I could do more.
What's your name?
Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah. Appreciate it. So that's one kind volunteer who's been out here helping the residents. We see little signs. We are the hands that care for 104. That's the address. And by the way, when they say NYCHA, they're talking about the New York Housing Authority, which governs, you know, public housing and all that. So this is, I believe there's 48 tenants in this building without gas right now. And obviously that's a problem. I mean, pandemic or no pandemic, it's a problem if you don't have gas to eat, stay warm, all those things. Right now, fortunately, you know, some days are colder than others, but I think today is like 65, 70 degrees. It's not so bad, but it will be colder probably in a week or two. So it's a problem. So you see, the food smells good, by the way, too. I don't know what they're distributing here, but it definitely smells good. See if we can talk to some other people. Let me see what your comments are. Jordan is more goat than Michael right now. Who's Michael? I don't know who Michael is, but thank you for the goat comment. Not all Jordan wears capes. Okay. I think I'm wearing all black because I put on a few pounds, so I'm trying to conceal my belly. I put on a few pounds. Now that the wedding's over, I should have been trying to exercise before the wedding, but I'm going to have to work out. All right. Keep pressing that share button. We got almost 600 people watching, so keep sharing this because honestly, let's just be honest for a second. CNN can't find the time to be here. New York Times, probably not. Maybe they'll come later. There has been the case where we've covered things and then like 2 weeks later they show up. So hopefully that's the case because we want as much media to cover things like this as possible. And I also think just psychologically, when you see water lines, for example, in places like Flint, which by the way, there are still water lines 6.5 years later, which is a whole nother topic. That's a national outrage. People should feel the same way here. Obviously, yeah, water, you die quicker without water, but you can't live a healthy, humane life without food. You just can't. I mean, my wife and I just moved in somewhere new, and our stove wasn't working. There was an electrical shortage, so our stove wasn't working for 2 days. Us being, kind of white people, we have our own privilege. We were annoyed and outraged and raising hell, and we were able to get somebody over to fix it right away. But again, like that woman said, we have a private, we live in a private residence instead of public housing. These folks don't have that luxury. They don't have the money to do that. And the fact that they're not getting any communication, the fact that they're not getting even a timeline, it's outrageous. And de Blasio, of course, there's a pandemic going on. He's got that to deal with, but this is kind of part of the daily pandemic of poverty. And I think one thing that gentleman said that stood out to me was it's intentional. They're intentionally letting these places like this rot. And I think there's validity to that statement. So let's see who else we could talk to here. Keep pressing the like button. Keep sharing this live stream. If you can, leave a super chat. We really appreciate it. We do still have our reporting GoFundMe going. We appreciate donations there. We are currently figuring out our plans for the election and beyond, so we definitely need some more of your support if you can. If you don't have the money, that's okay too. But if you do, drop it in the GoFundMe, the super chat, all that. So, sure. So they got a little table here?
Resource table here.
Okay.
Where we keep the people connected in the community. It's not just for Astoria residents here at 104, but we're trying to bridge the gap to bring back the building community. Like community building, I mean to say, to have everyone connected. So we have information about HRA programs for the residents that have been affected by the gas outages. And the program is for, it's the restaurant program. I think it's a restaurant allowance program. So some people were being misguided by that. So we just want to make sure they have the information that they needed. And
what's the restaurant allowance program?
I think it's a program with the SNAP benefits program. And I think they take, you have to be affected first. And then you have to get a letter from housing stating that you had a gas outage and you've been affected. You have to show proof of that. And I think that was a glitch that was left out. So we just want to make sure the information gets sent out the best way as possible and it's clear to the residents so that their applications won't be rejected, because HRA will reject your application. So we just don't want people to feel like they're in the dark about things. So this is our resource table, and we're also providing PPE supplies, and masks.
You know, something that strikes me, I see a lot of residents, they're really calm. And I know for a fact, if this was happening somewhere else with, you know, kind of yuppie white people, they'd be screaming, they'd be outraged. It seems to me that people are kind of used to being, you know, forgotten here. And they kind of, not that they're okay with it, but they don't expect much more from the government. Can you kind of talk about the fact that it's not, right now it's the gas, but there's been plenty of other instances where they've been left without services.
Right. And I agree with you on that, because I feel like in order to do better for yourself as an individual, you have to step up and want to be proactive for your life. It's not going to come to you on a platter. It's not going to come to you on a platter. Information is key. Education is key. But you have to want it for yourself. Education is knowledge, you know, that's all power within itself. Your first voice, like your first power should be your voice. So I feel like I'm a poet who likes to represent the people and speak for the voices that have been stolen or muted or silenced. And I just want people to be able to step out their comfort zone. So as you were saying, some people feel like they're not worthy of having a better lifestyle. I feel people are. And I speak for the poor, I speak for the working class. All classes, anybody that's feeling like they're being misjudged, misguided, it also works on your mind. And when I say that, I'm saying the mind, the body, and the soul is all connected. So if you're thinking that you're going to fail, then you're going to fail. If you're thinking that you're going to succeed in life, then you will succeed in life. It's all about spreading positivity. So this table is filled with love, positivity, and connection. And I feel like some residents do feel like they don't have no one to turn to. So they may turn away and say, hey, this issue doesn't affect me at all. I'm just going to be negative about it and not do anything about it. I don't believe in that. Because I come from a family where education was important. You know, graduating from high school, graduating from college, all that stuff was important. And it was instilled in me as a young child. So I just want to give it back to the youth, give it back to the community, because I feel like I am a muse for the young adults, the children, and the community as one. We're all families and people coming together as one. So I just feel like we always have this stigma put on us. The African American culture, we have this stigma where, you know, if you're receiving public assistance, then you're lazy. You never worked a day in your life, and you just want government assistance. I don't come from that kind of culture.
Well, apparently there's no stigma for multi-billion-dollar corporations that get trillions of dollars from the federal government, who, by the way, don't need the money. They got handouts during the first coronavirus bill, but there's no stigma. Those are just patriotic citizens, where people like Paul Ryan, Republicans, some Democrats, like to attack welfare recipients, like you're saying.
Right. And see, I come from a background where community building was number one. And I graduated from Hunter College. And I was in this program called Welfare Rights Initiative. And they're like a small grassroots organization that they fight for students that are being affected by public assistance. Where public assistance, HRA is telling them, you can't go to school. You have to work in the parks and be bounded by dead-end jobs. No, we're working on policies. We're going to Albany. We're speaking to city council members that want our vote, and we would like them to continue helping us and keeping these topics on the agenda. That's what it's all about. And speaking from that experience, we did have like, I think he was a senator at the time, or running for senator. I forgot his name. Mayor, I can't remember his name. But he was trying to label every person that was on welfare. And we said, you know what? We need to bring him to Hunter College so he can see that we have mothers with children fighting for their education, trying to get a bachelor's degree, wanting to be a part of that 88% that received their bachelor's degree. Let's prove and show him this. We're living and proving this. So we invited him to the classroom, and he changed his whole perspective about people on welfare. because we connected him to real life stories. People that's telling their stories in the classrooms, studying, you know, afraid that they're going to lose their public assistant case because they can't go to school. That doesn't make any sense to me. We're supposed to be lifting people up, not bringing them down. So when I hear anything about laziness, just not wanting to work or do anything for your life, I shut it down quickly because I'm the living proof of myself. Look where I live. I succeeded. I'm an NYPD school safety officer. I've always been around the community all my life, so I want to give back to my community and share that knowledge with others.
And I think also something that isn't really been talked about, but one person mentioned it, chickens are coming home to roost. The evictions are going to come soon because they put a moratorium, but they're not forgiving the rent. So a lot of people, I mean, are going to be kicked out all at once.
Yeah.
And what are they supposed to do?
What are they supposed to do? Right. I really don't know what's going to happen with that, but I know before it gets better, it's going to get worse. It's really going to get worse. So that's why we have organizations like Justice for All Coalition, Astoria Mutual Aid. We have these organizations willing to step up for the community. And I'm so happy that I found them because now I can connect more people to this organization, this outlet, where we're all speaking as one and helping the community through this crisis.
And when are we getting you in office so we can get rid of, you know, Carolyn Maloney and the rest of them doing nothing? I'm just saying.
I don't know, but I'm going to just keep speaking for the community, continue being an advocate for all voices that have been stolen. That's my whole motto. You know, poetry represents us all. It's the poor, the old, the rich, and the young. We come together. You know, and one day I might be on Rydell Park stage having a rally about the issues that affect us and just bringing the people together because I feel something needs to be done and we just have to be a voice for the community that's been forgotten.
I know my audience is going to kill me if I don't get your full name. What's your full name?
Shantae Austin.
Shantae Austin?
Yes.
Spell the first name? No, they're going to want to look you up.
SHAWNTA.
Thank you, Shantae. I appreciate it. Positivity. I love it. It's a great table. Can I talk to you too? Do you live here?
I grew up out here. I don't live here.
Okay, you grew up over here. So what do you know, I've been talking to so many people, and it's just the one thing that stands out to me is this wouldn't happen in most places, you know, 25 minutes, 30 minutes away, Manhattan, the nicer parts of Brooklyn. There'd be an urgency, particularly in private residences where people would just, that woman over there would say, yeah, I would just withhold my rent because they wouldn't be intimidated.
You withhold your rent, you know, you get evicted. But it's not just the gas, it's just everything. Like, there's no parking out here. There's so many different things that's going on in this community that's a problem. Like, for example, under this water, as you see these buildings here, right behind you, these are community centers. This whole strip going down is community centers under these buildings. Which one are being utilized for these children? None of them. We have 6 buildings, 6 community centers. None of them being properly utilized. You know, they say about drug use, things of that nature. We all know someone who may have been a drug addict or alcoholic who has hands-on skills. Why not hire them to teach these kids? Within 6 months to a year, they might stop using drugs because you gave them something to do. You know, you have kids who have talent that don't get the proper resources to capitalize off of it. So by the time they're 10, they're in trouble because at 5, he was a genius. Now, you know, but again, you have these centers that's not being utilized. You have parking being taken from the community, but then they're getting tickets for double parking the other stuff. Where am I going to park at? You know, you have lifelong residents here, they have nowhere to park. You have no supermarket. They just built this back here for that building, but you have no supermarket. Really, we have nothing out here. Nothing viable for the community. Everything is around the community, but nothing viable. Even Queensbridge houses, largest public housing project in America, right? Have you been in their community center? The community center does a lot of work, but it can barely fit 300 people. You know what I mean? Like, it looks good, but it's not good.
It seems like they basically systematically, slowly by slowly, let things decay and rot to eventually push people out.
Think of this. I was working as a violence interrupter, CMS, crisis management. Basically, we do the same thing the police do, respond. Every community, right, needs their own crisis management system from the community. The people that the children know been through where they are. Like myself, I spent 23 years in prison. I've been home 10 years now trying to talk to kids and do something different. But you need more like me out here. We don't have the resources to do it. We're not getting paid to do it. Then when we are, you only can work 2-3 days out the week, 3-4 hours. We need to be out here all day, every day, just like the police do. We live here, we're supposed to take care of here. You know what I mean? But we don't have the resources to take care of ourselves, our community. Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
And then you add on to all this the pandemic. You got children at home with their parents here with no gas. I mean, all these obstacles are kind of going on top of each other.
It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. Like, I came out here from Brooklyn because I grew up out here to help. Because it's overwhelming. And then you see, this is community orientated. This is not NYC, all right, your gas is out, we're going to provide you with food, we're going to provide you with this. This is the community doing this. So where is the people who got us living like this taking care of us? Pay your rent, pay your rent, pay your rent, but F you at the end of the day, and that's wrong. You know, this building mainly is full of elderly too. This is one of the buildings that has a lot of elderly in it. How can they have no gas? Now, we don't know if it's a gas leak, a gas this, so what if it's an explosion, then what?
And they gave them one hot plate that they can't even really cook anything on.
It's all a game. It's all a game. It's all a game. But they said you have to have the community. You have to have the community. Without a community, you're not going to have nothing because nobody's going to give it to you but yourself. We got to take care of each other, and that's hard. Again, go back to the epidemic. A lot of people don't have money no more because of employment. A lot of people starving. Now they're forced to scrape and scramble to help each other, which is a beautiful thing because it shows you in struggle that people come together. But
what are you talking about? President Trump during the debate said we're roaring back. The economy's roaring back. I guess I don't know what economy he's living in.
Because his economy is different than ours.
Hi, ladies.
Since COVID, as you know, a lot of businesses have boomed. But
My granddaughter.
those of us,
Say hello.
I've been telling people for years, when this is over, there's going to be no middle class. That's just all about. Get rid of the middle class. We're going to have that TV show, the haves and have-nots. And that's what we're dealing with. They're going to give us another wave of COVID. More jobs are going to get lost. More people are going to be homeless. That's why they keep showing us The Purge.
What's your name?
My name is Shaheen.
Thank you, Shaheen.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Whew. The Purge. You might be right. So we got more people over here lining up. We'll speak with some more residents before we wrap. Let me see what's going on. Thank you for the $25. Lana Dell. Hashtag job guarantee, benefit the community. This situation is a perfect example of why we need one. The expert is Dr. Pavelina I can't pronounce her last name, but I'll try to. Techaverna. Thank you for the $25. Please keep the super chats coming. We really appreciate them and need your support to continue covering these types of stories. So like they said, you have a lot of elderly people living in this building, in communities like it. You know, they can't easily go out and get meals. A lot of them are living on SSI, Social Security, other programs. So they need this. They need the volunteers to help. But, this is not every day that they're doing this. So what are they going to do for the rest of the time? So you see, children live in this complex, elderly. So there you go. Ooh. I'll try to talk to some other people. And let me know what you think in the chat if you'd like any more information on how you can help. We definitely have heard from some people the desire for residents to withhold their rent. I think they should withhold their rent, but I understand I understand the instinct and the intimidation factor. Spiritas, $5. Thanks for the views, trolls. Enjoy the CARES Act and 1200. Act like Trump is for you. It's amazing to me, like, who the hell is trolling this? Like, would Republicans or MAGA people even, like, have a problem with food delivery for people without gas? I mean, that's beyond trolling. That's just evil. I don't understand who would troll this kind of thing. But, you know, there are bad people in the world. So, by the way, we do have, for members, if you don't know, we just launched this week our membership Discord, which is Discord. Basically, it's like a cool chat room is the best way I could describe it. So we have a members-only Discord. It goes on all day. I dip in, Jen dips in. At times, we'll do scheduled things where I'll be in the Discord for an hour or so. So definitely, it's another perk of membership, statuscoup.com/join. Jen and I also will have our members call. I forgot what day we're doing it, Jen. Maybe you could put it in the super chat. I think we're doing it Monday, but I could be wrong. So as a member, you now have access to our Discord as well as our monthly members call. So please sign up, statuscoup.com/join, statuscoup.com/join. Let me try and chat with some other people who live here, see what they're dealing with. It's really outrageous, and it gives you perspective if you're someone like me who lives in a much nicer area, how good you have it. You know, if the gas went out where I live, this would not be happening at all. Just like when I go to Flint, it's like foreign to me that people could still, six and a half years later, still be without clean water. It's crazy. It's crazy. Let me see if... I don't have a card on me, but Status Coup. We're on YouTube right now. YouTube. Yeah, check us out. So I always forget to bring my cards. It's a bad habit. So. Oh, I'm okay. You want? Maybe when I wrap up. I'm wrapping up soon. But thank you. They even offer the journalist food. Much nicer than the MAGA people, let me tell you. I haven't published a video where they're screaming fake news at us. That was a shining moment in my career, let me tell you. If you watched. By the way, YouTube now is further suppressing us. They are now age restricting our videos for some unknown reason. I posted a video this morning, no mask for thee, but stay away from me. There was the gentleman from the Trump rally who refused to wear a mask. When I challenged him on it, he told me I'm exempt. I don't know why he's exempt. He said I'm medically exempt. Okay. But then later on, he got pissy with me because I wasn't 6 feet away from him. So I posted that. I don't think it's offensive to children, but they age restricted it, which is another way that they hide our videos. So that's another reason we need your help. statuscoup.com/join. Sign up as a member. Please, $5 a month. That's all we need, $5 a month. So got a couple more tenants lining up here. I think right now, Jen, you could check me on this. I think we're 10 days from the election. 10 days away from the election. And a lot of these stories always fall through the cracks. I mean, CNN doesn't cover these types of things. But especially now with the pandemic, the Supreme Court battle, Trump having COVID and taking joyrides around Walter Reed, the California wildfires, so many big, giant crises all at once that these kind of stories just, if not for, not to pat ourselves, but if not for us, a couple other outlets, nobody would know about these things. So it's important to be out here on our weekends, whenever we can cover these things, we try to. So, can I talk to you, ma'am? Do you live here?
Yes, I do.
It's just my audience is watching and is outraged.
We need help. Our apartments are falling apart. NYC is not doing anything to help us. You understand what I'm saying? They're just taking our rent money and not fixing our apartments up. And I think it's a damn shame. Okay?
It's incredible because a lot of people that would be watching, if the gas was out in their apartments, maybe a few days, if that. This is
not the first time this has gone on. Last year, a year before last, We had no gas for almost 6 or 7 months. They gave us hot plates.
6 or 7 months?
6 or 7 months, year before last, they gave us hot plates to use. That's how long the gas was out.
And they made you pay rent.
And we had to still pay our rent on time. Like now, even with the corona, we still have to pay our rent. But they're not doing anything to fix up the apartments. I live on the 6th floor, and being that they just put those, generators up there, I have structural damage, and my apartment is literally crumbling around me. So what are we to do?
And let me ask you, just day to day, how are you providing your meals? Can you make meals on those hot plates that they provided you?
Are you kidding me? One at a time. One at a time. A meal we have to use the hot plate to make a full dinner. We have to use it one at a time. If I want to make a piece of meat, I have to do the meat. If I want to make rice or vegetables, I have to wait to do them one at a time. And it doesn't make any sense. If you all can help us, I really would appreciate it. And God bless you.
What's your name again?
My name is Ray Harris.
Ray Harris? Thank you. Appreciate it. It doesn't get more clear than that. I mean, direct help they're asking for. And, you know, once we post the videos, just wipe down since a lot of people are. Once we post the videos, we'll put in resources, how you could help, those kind of things. I mean, if you're local, you could definitely come down, volunteer, distribution. I think once you're here, you'll find out it's much more than the gas that they need help with. So it's something. It's really something. And she just described it. I mean, it's like, think in Flint, for example, the things you would never even think about. They gotta brush their teeth with bottled waters. I've spoken with people in Flint that to take a bath, they got to pour in 150 bottles of bottled water. Here, if you want to do meat, you got to do like one at a time on a hot plate. That's my wife, if she's watching, she knows I don't really cook, but I could only imagine that could take a very long time, And who has that time if you got kids? That's an all-day job. If you're elderly, maybe you have more time, but it's more cumbersome for you to have to do that. It's just, we've heard from people, human rights. It's inhumane. It's inhumane. And you grew up in Brooklyn, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Would this kind of thing happen where you grew up too for 30, 60 days?
I think it's certain parts, definitely, yeah. Yeah. Especially with the NYC houses, they're just really, the past couple of years, they've been falling apart and you know, there's been some issues with them.
They've been falling apart as New York City under Bloomberg, under de Blasio, have let the rich take over the kingdom.
Pretty much, yep.
Yeah, that's another thing. I mean, yeah, this is local New York City, but if you want to nationalize it, the same story nationally. You have progressive mayors, Democratic governors, so we got de Blasio, Cuomo. You know, they put out nice platitudes. You know, Cuomo during his every single day, those must-see TV press conferences that CNN had him doing. They made him the resistance hero during the pandemic. Well, by the way, he killed 6,000 people in nursing homes. Let's not go into that. His brother, Christopher Cuomo, brought him on CNN primetime to like joke around and put something up his nose. It was ridiculous. But they get it right in terms of the progressive language. They get it right in terms of the progressive symbolism, you know? Bill de Blasio, when he was running, did a commercial with his black son to try and say, hey, I get your plight. I have a black son, I have a black wife, this and that. But then he's let the police just continue the militarized execution of black people all over New York City. And now, you know, so we have so-called progressives in governance, but they're handing out the city to real estate developers. That's why when I go down the list of money we don't take, no money from the bankers, no money from the fossil fuckers, no money from big pharma, I also say big real estate. Because big real estate, let me tell you something, the Democrats take money hand over fist. All of these cities, New York City, Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Chicago, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Cleveland, and on and on and on and on. Raise your hand in your community. The local officials and the governors are selling out public housing, are selling out low-income housing, and they're literally, in some cases, paying developers. I give you a prime example. The resistance hero, Pete Buttigieg, how they said he brought back South Bend. You know what he brought back? 4 blocks. 4 blocks in South Bend. He literally, the South Bend government paid businesses in Chicago, which is, I think, an hour and a half away from South Bend, Indiana, paid luxury companies, hotels, this and that, to come to South Bend. So paying for, wealthy luxury companies. I remember when I was in South Bend, they had a luxury hotel there. Paying them to come to South Bend, you beautify 4 or 5 blocks. They put I think they spent $25 million or something like that to have a light show over the river, to have lights over the river downtown as some attraction. And meanwhile, outside of that downtown perimeter, left the city to rot. He literally tore down 1,000 homes in the black and brown part of the city in 1,000 days, against the residents' will, against the residents' desire. The residents didn't want their houses. A lot of them were abandoned because they couldn't afford to repair them. They were poor. So my point is, why did he do that? So he could attract young college kids to start moving in South Bend. Make it a hip, young area so that young college kids can move in at higher rents for those developers, for those big real estate companies. And the same thing has been happening a couple blocks away from here, while systematically leaving poor people, I don't want to be dramatic, to die. I mean, that's what this is. They don't care if they die. If it were up to them, the more people, if they don't want to pay their rent, we'll evict them. Eventually, you don't have enough capacity, tear that shit down, build another high-rise. They were going to do that with Amazon. If Amazon would have come here, they were literally going to push people in the neighborhood out so that they could build a giant shopping entertainment complex around the Amazon offices in Queens. So if my older brother is watching, if all these, finance people said, oh my God, Jordan, you and your socialism, communism, there could have been 1 million jobs there, blah, 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 blah. Yeah? At what expense? So we'll have jobs so we could push half of the neighborhood out so we could have those jobs. And the people that we're not actually forcing to leave, the people that are still there, technically, will eventually get phased out, because if you put Amazon there, if you put this entertainment shopping complex there, the rents are going to go through the roof, and those people will be pushed out. This is why I say gentrification is not the word. When people hear gentrification, it's kind of a sleepy term. Maybe they don't get it. It's economic terrorism. That's what this is. Economic terrorism. And why I say that is, think about, you heard it, people are intimidated to strike. The New York Housing Authority has intimidated them. This is the first I hear that they already had a gas shortage here for 6 or 7 months. I'm going to have to look into that. See, I learned stuff while I'm out here reporting. 6 or 7 months, these people, they should get their money back. They didn't have gas for 6 or 7 months. It's insane. Absolutely insane. Hold on. A monopoly of tyranny. Amazon is killing our nation. Don't get me started. I would go on a louder rant, but I don't want to scare the people. So, this is a story that we will definitely stay on. Unfortunately, I don't think this is going to be I don't think this will be the first food distribution. As we go into the holidays, I unfortunately worry that this is going to continue. But somebody's got to cover these things. And by the way, full disclosure, these kinds of stories are not the financial hits for media companies, right? This is not going to go viral because Silicon Valley, like Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, the way these platforms work is to make sure these stories don't go viral. The stories that do go viral are like, Russia stole the election. Oh, I don't know. Kanye did something stupid. So these stories like don't make us a ton of money. But the truth is, in the long term, because we intentionally set up Status Coup not as a nonprofit, but as a for-profit. And the reason we did that was not to become rich, because that's not going to happen, but we wanted to show that it is a viable for an independent media outlet to succeed as a business model, to fight the corporate media by doing exactly what we're doing. And frankly, before the pandemic, I mean, we were roaring, baby. We grew over 600 paid members from Iowa to the end, to Michigan. That's a lot for us, 600 paid members. We were almost at 2,000 paid members. And then COVID hit. We've lost a lot. You know the story. But we're going to keep covering these stories because it's a long game, right? It's not going to hit for us right away. We're not off of this live stream going to grow 200 members. Hopefully we can grow a couple. Sign up, statuscoup.com/join. But I don't know. Call me cheesy, but if you ever see that movie with Keanu Reeves? Hardball? Yeah. There's a movie with Keanu Reeves. It's actually kind of a cheesy movie, but it's a good movie. It's called Hardball, where Keanu Reeves, white guy, privileged. He goes into a community kind of like this, a low-income community, and he coaches a little league team of black kids. And he says to the kids, kids, half of life is just showing up. And I really believe that, particularly in journalism, a lot of it's just showing up. And you'd be surprised what can happen if you just show up where no one else will. It's laborsome. There's plenty of times we do it that we'd rather be doing something else with family or friends or whatever. But this is important because if we're not here, who else is going to be here? I think so far they mentioned that New York One, which is a local New York outlet, was here. But the truth is, even when local outlets cover it, they don't particularly do much. They come, they're here for an interview so that they could show it on their nightly newscast, but that's it. They're not here for hours. They're not giving people calls to action, what to do. They're not expressing any outrage because they're supposed to stand here like neutral robots and be neutral to oppression and the controlled demolition of poor people. Then they're not supposed to show an opinion. So that's why it's important that we're here, because even if local outlets do cover it, at the end of the day, they're just cogs in the corporate machine. And that's why we don't take corporate funding. So sign up, statuscoup.com/join. Let me read a couple questions, comments, concerns. They should rethink if they want to be and stay Democrats. This is their new normal to get used to it. To be honest with you, I didn't really bother asking about the presidential election because that's probably the furthest thing from these people's minds right now. It's interesting to us, and we're all in it. But if you don't have gas and you can't make meals, am I really going to ask them about Biden versus Trump? I don't really think that's the most important thing right now for these people. So help yourself open your mind. Yes. I just want to say you're doing a fabulous job. Keep up the good work, Jordan. Why, thank you. And by the way, if you can't support us as a paid member, subscribe to this channel and spread the coup. Spread the coup to your friends, to your family. I still believe in word of mouth. So tell your friends, tell your family, hey, you want to know something? Yeah, there's MAGA people who would be like, fuck the poor people. There are some right-wing people that would be outraged by this. I bet you when I show my parents, my dad's a major Trump person, he would be outraged by this. They just don't know. Fox News isn't showing it to them. CNN isn't showing it to them. They're not seeing it on Facebook. So people don't know. And I'm sure there's some neoliberal, wine moms who are out to brunch. They would be outraged by this. People need the information. People need to know what to do and how to do. So that's the deal. Let me speak of one more person before we close down. I'm live right now. You can find me.
Put on the website or anything?
YouTube. Status Coup.
Status Coup.
Yep. I'll get your contact before I leave. Yeah.
Thank you.
And they made it their business to be involved with the community. They made it their business to make sure that they were reaching out to us. It's all about making sure the community come out as well. We have to show that we're responsible. We have to make sure that we're involved.
Hold on.
We can always say what we've done right, but if we don't come out and speak about it, and show that this is what you bring, it defeats the purpose.
Can I talk to you, ma'am?
I'm sorry?
Can I talk to you?
Sure, 1 minute.
Sure.
It defeats the purpose.
So we're going to talk to that woman. She's talking the language I like, so I want to show it on camera. So we see, I don't know if that's her child, possibly, but there are children that live here without a way to cook meals, which is obviously a major problem. I don't know if you showed them the sign, but it's Astoria Boulevard, which is in Queens. Astoria, by the way, is one area in New York City that has been pretty gentrified over the last 10 years. There's parts that used to be not like this. Used to be, lower income people that have now been made just full blocks of restaurants, bars, bringing in people, younger people, college age people, that kind of thing. But this area is a public housing unit. So, yeah. And you do see, I've spoken with several people. They used to live here and are coming back to try and help.
Hi.
Yeah, I heard you talking and saying some things that I agreed with. So you live here?
Yes, my name is Vanessa Jones Hall. My family been out here since 1951. We were one of the first 10 families to move into the development. So my family evolved in here. This is a community of generations, and we pride ourselves of great wealth of history here, and we always had community involvement. And as I was saying earlier when we was talking about the different things that's happening here in the community, along with negotiating with NYCHA about what's happening not just to this building but the entire development, we were one of the developments that were hit heavily by Hurricane Sandy. And I worked on that project, and with working on that project, you see that that disaster was like a sign of hope for us in a sense. It sounds crazy, but it was true. That meant to us, NYCHA has to come out and pay attention to what's really going on in the community and how the community is feeling, meaning that it's feeling in its infrastructure, because this infrastructure is old. It's very old, and it's where you putting things in new and still connecting it to old legs, as opposed to stop doing patchwork. Just do it completely. This was only meant to last for so long before it had to be renewed. You see what I'm saying? It was just like the bridges. The world only have it for maybe 100 years. Now you see it's coming, it's starting to rot away. It's starting to fall. Anything that ages, that's what happens. And this is what we're dealing with in this community. We're still dealing with a lot of things that are the originals. So it's time for it to be changed. But in the same token, as we do all this hoopla and we thank you for coming out to hear us out, but in the same token, we need the community to come out. We need everyone in the community to feel, we feel the same way. We just need to show that we feel the same way by coming out and showing that we're tired. Because we are. We're tired of them thinking that this is a community that don't mean nothing, that don't care about nothing, and that's far from the truth. A sad part is the 6% of what happens of negativity in our communities gets 95% attention. And that loses away from the dynamics of the real communities here. It loses away from the fact that these are hardworking people who wants the same like any other community. Get rid of whatever negativity we have that's damaging us or bringing harm towards us, and show that we just want the same. We want a clean community. We want a community that's safe. And we want a community that's not falling apart. Even when they put the stuff for the Sandy project, when they renewed some of the apartments that we was underwater, and some of the building over here across the street, they have ground floor apartments. All those apartments had to be redone, and all of them had to be moved. All of them had to be moved out of their apartments in order to get their apartments renovated. And even when the new stuff came, like the cabinets or what have you, they started breaking off, So what you did was you didn't give us anything new. You gave us something that was refurbished, because it's supposed to last. And like I said, this disaster was supposed to bring hope to us, because we thought that NYCHA would say, hey, now we're going to really have to dig into these grounds of these communities and really see underneath us we're falling apart. We need new wiring. All these buildings here are affected by Hurricane Sandy. They had to rewire them and take the generators and everything that was underground and put them up on top of the roofs. That took a lot of time to do. And the families having to still go through this hardship after Hurricane Sandy, it doesn't make sense. But once again, we need the entire community to let you know this doesn't make sense. A lot of times people don't want to come out because they're tired of fussing and fighting with NYCHA. This has been ongoing. We have had changes in NYCHA where they have changed, the seats have changed bodies each time, but no one wants to stand up and stand right. You know, when it comes to saying, okay, I'm going to take this seat and we're going to have enough and we're going to make sure we do the job right and do it correctly. Stop hiring these private contractors and nobody's properly monitoring them until something goes wrong. How about monitoring them during the process of the work? Because we watch what they do. They come in and out of our neighborhoods often, not coming in respectfully and leaving debris behind. You know what I'm saying? And as well as you got to make sure that the job is properly completed. We're tired of hearing that you got to hire another contractor because this contractor didn't do the right thing, and then that new contractor has to come in and do an assessment. That's a waste of time and money once again. Because now that's patchwork we got going on, because we got to patch up the work until they finish their assessment. And then when they come in with their assessment, they want more money because they got to take over another person's job and redo it. It's unfair. We're tired of it. And we want a change. And right now with this COVID going on, it's hard for it to be where you tell these people, oh, you don't have to worry about anything in your community when you have an administration that don't care. This administration is not caring about us. This administration is not showing how to combat, because they're saying it's rising in the NYCHA communities. I work on the COVID project right now with Health and Hospital under Jacob Reese neighborhood settlement. And we're working in the NYCHA communities of Astoria, Ravenswood, and Queensbridge to make sure that the residents are aware that the numbers you are seeing are real. I have lost 56 loved ones, not all from the COVID, but it was also the COVID affected them. You know, there's a big difference on you actually perishing from that disease, and it's also affecting you. I have a sister that I had just recently buried because she was supposed to be on a pacemaker. They canceled her procedure knowing that if she did not get this procedure done, she would just die. And that's exactly what happened to her.
How old is she?
She was 52. And there's no reason why she's still not here with us. You know what I'm saying? But these are the kind of things that we were dealing with. A lot of people lost their loved ones due to different issues that COVID affected us on. And when you have an administration that is not cooperating and not being truthful with what's really going on in our land, it's horrifying. So here in the NYCHA community, especially here in Astoria houses, we are upset on so many different angles. We feel like we're being wrongly pulled in so many different directions where things are not being done properly, things are being on hold, and things that were on hold is going to just be totally dropped because of now this. But in the same token, I just want to say thank you for all of those who are out here listening to us and being compassionate about what we're going through. And it's such a fact that you're not hearing sap stories. You're hearing life-changing and life-affecting stories that you're hearing from us because of the fact that we are just like anybody else. We want a home that we can live in properly. We want a home that can sustain itself. We want a place to live that we don't have to fear in and out of. And that's from anybody who comes in and out of our communities, even when you're policing or you're non-policing. It's all about us coming together as a community because we all are responsible for what we do on behalf of each other. But in the same token, we have young people that we want to make sure that they grow up into a healthy community. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of things that's happening. And with this gas outage in this building, this is not the first time we have gone through this where we've been out of gas, a building been out of gas for so length of time. One time it was 6 months. But it's a process that we have to go through because Con Ed has shut it down from one apartment. And now being that the lineage and everything is old, they have to be cautious before they turn it on. So that means it's going to take time for them to do that. They have to go underground and make sure everything is correct. They're dealing with another organization that's making sure it's correct or what their part has to be done. Then NYCHA has to come back and make sure they're checking everything going through. Then after that, they have to go through and bleed the lines out of each and every apartment, making sure everyone's safe. Because if you don't do that, God forbid, somebody go to turn on their gas and you have an explosion on your hand. So unfortunately, this is what we're dealing with. But we all came together here on behalf of Food First, with Evie and all of us and all of my beautiful people here that has come and joined us, along with my granddaughter, where's Madison? And we all just band together and we're going to be here by their side as long as possible, and grateful that we have been blessed with this moment to make it happen. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Let me ask you one more thing. Obviously, easier said than done. But I think a lot of people watching, when they hear you once were out to 6 months without gas,
Yes.
why is it that you guys don't feel comfortable withholding your rent, or at least saying we're not paying rent, or the government needs to provide this food every day? I know it's easier said than done, and I understand why, but it just seems to me, if this was like, white folk in Midtown Manhattan, they would not be paying their rent until this was fixed.
Well, I know, for example, going through Hurricane Sandy, when we had to relocate residents, and it was supposed to be for those residents whose apartment was damaged by Hurricane Sandy, had the option to temporarily move, or they can choose to move where they're going permanently. The word got out incorrectly, and fearful tactics were done, that if there were residents who, say, for example, were occupying apartment, like maybe have 3 bedrooms, which is a 5-bedroom apartment, but only have 2 people living there, they weren't supposed to downsize them, because that was not a downsizing procedure or process. That was supposed to be where they get relocated because of a disaster, and it will be where they are able to return back to that apartment, and then whatever procedures take on from there, supposed to go. There were people that were being, from what we were being told, being given these fair tactics being done to them, saying that they would lose their apartment if they, once they leave, that they will not be allowed back. If anybody was already in a situation with their rent, that they were risking being evicted. So you have these tactics going on, and it's not the first time we've been in that situation where the people are afraid that they'll be evicted. So if you was to do something, some kind of action like that, or class action like that, it would have to be done in the proper manner, where the people will be prepared, not just not paying their rent, but holding on to it, making sure that they show proof that they have it. Because, say, for example, this 6 months go by and we're in litigation, and we wind up whether we lose or we win the fight. NYCHA's going to say it's the 22nd. Today's the 24th. They could say by November 2nd, your rent has to be paid in full. You know what I'm saying? Although legally you could go to housing court and say 30 days because that's the normal practice. But just using this as an example, you'll have to have them. You have to keep it honest, transparent, and let them know what they're up against. Not having false hope, thinking that somebody's going to come and back them up on this, because just in case it doesn't happen. Because of the fact, once again, this administration that we have right now, and that's the only thing I can talk about, is the fact that that's not a safe haven right there.
You're talking about the mayor, de Blasio.
This administration that we have going on right now, we cannot, I'm not talking just on the local level, I'm talking about even federal, that we cannot rely on them. We can't rely on them right now because the federal government is not giving any money to New York. So even if de Blasio had any money to give, had any way of giving us anything, the administration of federal is already saying what they're not doing for us. So all the more reason why we're in a scare tactic. That's a scare tactic, and so we're fearful of making sure that we are not going to get harmed personally because of the fact that you don't want to be. Now the governor has already pushed back to January for evictions, and we don't want to be part of that process. You already having a lot of people already have lost their jobs, and their unemployment has ran out. So for you to talk about going on a rent strike, how are they going to continue to get assistance and helping them? Will they be qualified for a one-shot deal from public assistance? Will they be qualified for that extension through the housing courts? These are things we have to know that's guaranteed to make that action happen. Because you can't just say, okay, we're going to hold back our rent and we don't have nobody to help us. Or we're not making sure that we take it upon ourselves to be told, you got to make sure you keep track of your paperwork, showing that you have your rent and money orders. So that way when that happens, you're ready to say, here, I have my rent in full. Other than that, just to say a strike doesn't mean you keep the money. You have to have it prepared to give in. You holding on to your rent, not paying your rent, but holding on to it as a tactic of protest to say, listen, we are tired and we had enough. And until you get things fixed, this is what we're going to do. But in the same token, explain to everyone what that means and what that entails and what is the consequences if you don't have it. You know what I'm saying? So to just say going on a rent strike is a lot of dynamics in there. You have a lot of things where people in these developments have been told so many different things and have been jilted. So the trust factor is not really there in the beginning, way before all of this. Okay, so it's all about earning and gaining the trust. So if you're going to earn and gain that trust, you have to show due diligence that you're there for us 100%, and not be there for a photo op, not be there to take a picture with us, not to get your face on the news. You have to be there fairly and honestly and show that you care, because we can do this together or not at all.
How could people help if they live in New York, if they're close? Is it volunteering, donating food? How could people help you guys?
Right now, we have lots of people that comes over through word of mouth of those of us that's already here, donating food. And that's an awesome thing, and we thank them all. Without them, this would not be possible as well. You know, we are very grateful. Whatever you're able to donate is awesome. We have children that is in diapers that can be, and you have children, parents that are in need. You know, some of these parents are out of work because of the COVID. You know, so this is a blessing for them. We also have food given out on Tuesdays at towards the front of the neighborhood every Tuesday. And then you have other neighborhood CBOs that also give out food, boxes of food. So we make sure that we try to keep the community fed and keep them keep informed of what it is going on and whatever needs that are their concerns. And then we just try our best to take it from there and get it to the right people so they can get it into their heads that we are over here and we're struggling, and that to let them know that regardless to the struggle, we have strong people that's still fighting, and we're going to continue this fight. And we have a lot of good people over here that comes every week out to this community and help us fight with this fight. So I really am grateful for that.
What's your name?
Vanessa Jones Hall.
Vanessa Jones Hall?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Wow. Pal, even though they're dealing with this, we've talked to so many people that are still taking action and are positive and thoughtful, you know. And I just learned something, because it's easy to say, well, don't pay your rent strike. But there's other factors that go into it that she just explained, that, yeah, you could do it, but that doesn't mean in 6 months or in 2 months you ain't getting evicted. That doesn't mean if you just withhold your rent, you're going to be taken to court and lose that rent and have to pay it all in one lump sum. So it's kind of easy for certain people to say rent strike, but if you're on the vulnerable end, if you don't have the power, if you don't have fancy attorneys, if you don't have fancy lobbyists, if you don't have the institutional support structure to defend that, you could be thrown out with the wolves. So really, really important. All right, let's see what's going on. Oh, my phone's about to die. All right, folks, so we're going to stay on this story. We're going to make, when we shut it down, we'll make some contacts so we can get updates. We'll definitely be back, because unfortunately I don't think this is a one-week thing. And we'll stay on this story, because whether it's in Queens or other parts of the country, here it's gas, somewhere else it's water, somewhere else, you know, we live in a capitalist society, but that capitalist society is not for everyone. That capitalist society is for the few. That's why I call it the United Corporations of America, because the one theme you've heard this whole broadcast, gentrification, this community being left to basically fend for themselves and rot while they build up other parts of the community via big real estate developers, contractors that give money to the government. That's why I call it the United Corporations of America. One more call out. Please, if you can. If you can't, we get it. Tough times for everybody. If you can, consider signing up as a member, statuscoup.com/join. Membership is really the only way we grow. We don't take money from corporations, from plutocrats, from vultures. We grow through membership, and we've made it so you can become a member. Really, I mean, $5 a month, that's 16 cents a day. I know there's a lot of people, you know, God knows my email inbox every day, between politicians asking me for money, nonprofits asking me for money, think tanks asking me for money. Everybody's asking everybody for money. But I'm asking you for money because, honestly, there's actions and then there's words. But actions speak louder than words. What we do speaks for itself. We're out there. During a pandemic, we've been out there frankly, more than many national outlets have been out there. Yeah, they go and they travel with Trump and Biden, whatever. Great. That's the horse race. We're out where it matters. So I hope through our actions and the stories we decide to cover and the people we give a microphone to, you want to be part of that and expand our Status Coup community. Community, my wife made up that term, so props to her. So anyway, thanks for watching. I'm not going to go live tomorrow, spend the day with the wifey, so I'll be back on Monday. We might be covering something tomorrow in Brooklyn, but that might be John solo, so we'll let you know about that. You can get updates on our coverage and things like that in the Discord, hint, hint, as a member. But we're thinking about John going to cover a Jews for Trump rally tomorrow. The Orthodox Jews, they love them some Donald Trump, so we might be out there tomorrow. There's another event on Tuesday, kind of like a housing protest on Tuesday too. So, and then of course is the election. We're coming up with our ideas for what we want to do for the election too. So, thank you for watching. Statuscoup.com/join. If you're already a member, you could also support us in the GoFundMe. Jen will put that in the super chat. I think we're at I don't know where we're at. I think almost $124,000 raised. But to be clear, we don't have $124,000. We've been spending that money as we go, traveling around the country, equipment we had to purchase, advertising. So we don't have $124,000. That's just what we've raised in almost 3 years. But our goal is $200,000. We expanded it during the pandemic. So any amount, the people leaving $100, $200, amazing. If you could leave more, even better. But even like the $10, the $5, it all adds up after all. So that's it from Queens. We'll see you possibly tomorrow. Bye.